My guest today on the Neil Wilkins podcast requires very little, if any, introduction. It's actually the third time he's been on the podcast, and I'm delighted to welcome back somebody who is, I guess you could be defining him as the disruptive entrepreneur, Mr. Rob Moore. Welcome back, Rob.
Thanks, Neil.
It's great to see you. And every time we kind of catch up and kind of have these conversations, it just seems that the world has moved on at a pace. And I think this time, probably even more so than the previous time. How's things been for you?
Yes. So someone told me a story about time, and it really landed for me because as you get older or you've been doing business longer, you think, does time really go that much faster? Because time is time, so surely it can't. But imagine you're 4 years old, 1 year of your life, age 4, is 1/4 of your life. But if you're 40, 1 year is 1/40th of your life. So a year when you're 40 feels like 1/40th of your life, but a year when you're 4 feels like a quarter of your life. And I was like, yes, that's why it feels like time goes so much quicker as you get older, because it's so much less of a percentage of your life. I find myself, as I get older, even though I'm much more financially secure and I have much more security around me, I get the feeling that I don't have much time. And I think that's a healthy thing to feel, because then you don't waste your life.
It's so profound, isn't it? Really, these kind of moments, they're so simple and yet they make such a major difference to how we perceive stuff. And yeah, I think certainly one of the things I've kind of encountered on that journey of time as well has been just this idea of kind of variety. And I think the more spaces, places, people, and kind of encounters that we can have, that seems to stretch time too. And I know obviously in your kind of very busy life, with all the kind of various fingers in pies that you have, that must kind of help kind of get this perception of getting value through every day. It must feel that the more you do, actually, the more value you're getting back. Does it feel that way?
Yeah. So partly because I get my kicks out of getting shit done in business. So whether it's something I'm finding difficult and then I fix, or something I love to do and achieve that's more in flow, I get my kicks out of getting shit done. Now, what you have to be careful with if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're kind of a bit of an addictive, obsessive one like I am, is you have to be careful that you don't turn around in 20 years and your kids don't know who you are. And I used to be good at golf. I used to be good at martial arts. I don't do those anymore because business. So the solution I found, Neil, for that is to not have this work-life balance. That generally people who talk about work-life balance are people who think that you work too much, but I wouldn't look at their lives with envy myself, but have more of a work-life blend. So, I do have a personal trainer and they come to me and, that we're both interested in business. And then if I travel, I'll have a personal trainer come with me. My holidays are also work trips, or I run masterminds or mentoring, or I go and I did a podcast tour in Dubai quite recently. And obviously Dubai is a nice place to be. My kids work for me. They'll learn my homeschooling series for kids that I'm doing on money.school. So I found that blending as much of it as you can, because there's one life. There's just one life. I found that that's been, for me, the best way to live life.
It is so healthy, isn't it, really? And this whole thing of balance. I know we talked about this last time. I can remember the moment in the conversation where it was just, we kept revisiting this word balance. And I think, for a lot of us, we've got to strike that, because yes, it is about the money. Yes, it is about that feeling of success. Yes, it is about making a difference and serving, but it's also about being kind to yourself. And you can't do all of these things successfully at the detriment to yourself, which obviously, is something, again, with the personal training training and having a kind of a routine, I guess, that kind of enables you to continue at a high state of, I guess, performance. Do you kind of view this as a sort of a performance? It feels like it is actually almost like playing a match in sport, that, you know, to be able to consistently perform, you've got to be attending to diet and, you know, fitness and health. And does sleep come into it? Do you get time to sleep with this kind of hustling lifestyle?
So I wouldn't say I have a hustling lifestyle compared to someone who's fighting a war, or, you know, maybe a nurse or a firefighter. You know, they work really hard and they're not paid well enough. And that's not entrepreneurs' faults. That's our government's fault. It's the public sector's fault. So I wouldn't say I've got the hustle and grind culture. I've got more, I love what I do. And so I have to check myself. Otherwise, I do it 16 hours a day and I forget to eat well, sleep well, train. And maybe I'm fairly rare in that regard. I actually think that anyone watching and listening, you could intentionally create that for your life. So I'm not doing anything because I have to. Even if they're problems I don't want, I still choose to do them. So for me, it's just forgetting to do other stuff because I love business and entrepreneurship so much. But a couple of things to address your question. 100%. I said this before people were writing books on it. And like, there's this famous guy who wrote a book called Why We Sleep. It's like, no one needs to tell me why we sleep. I know why we sleep. It's freaking obvious. Why would you need to write a book called Why We Sleep? Well, clearly society needed it. But, you know, your body knows if you haven't had enough sleep. And I've got certain, I get headache right there if I haven't had enough sleep. And my brain takes a lot longer to connect things. And, you know, the pauses are longer and the day feels more drudgery. So if you think about all the areas in your life that make you successful and effective and energized, and this could be in business, but this could just be in general life, I'd probably put sleep up there as, it's certainly in the top three. And this one I'm going to tell you about, no one talks about, but I'd put having a meaningful mission or vision in the top three. One of my mentors showed me some neuroscience that if you have a meaningful and inspired mission and vision, it actually creates chemicals in your brain that can help you live longer. And if you think about it, people live long who have a reason to live. People who might think about suicide is because they feel they have nothing left to live for. So if you think of the opposite of nothing left to live for, is everything to live for. So I have a vision to help as many people on this planet get better financial knowledge. That's a lot to live for. I've got a lot of work to do, and that energizes me. So having a meaningful mission or vision, sleeping well. Then the next thing is making sure that you order your day, own your day, or your day will own you. And I wrote a book about this called Routine Equals Results. And if you're spending all day dealing with other people's emergencies and other people's traumas, and you're surrounded by people who are draining your energy and just bringing problems, not solutions, or you're drowning in your own admin and you're not actually doing the tasks that grow your business, that's going to be very draining of your energy very quickly indeed. So I would say knowing your revenue generating and key result area tasks and doing the things that make you feel most inspired, that are most important to the business, that also needs to be right up there. Then your environment is really important, Neil. So sometimes you need to isolate yourself and be alone and have noise cancelling headphones on, and, you know, no visual distractions, no kids running in and out, no noise, no devices or notifications. Because sometimes we've got to do deep work in isolation. But then sometimes you must be around people, because if you isolate too much, again, that's been sociologically proven to be really bad for you. So that's why I love having a staff and a team. We've got nearly 100 staff in my company or companies. So knowing the environment where you need to be around mentors, inspired people on a mission who are peers, and then knowing when you've got to lock yourself away and just write the last 2 chapters of that bloody book and get it done. Then, of course, you've got diet, you've got exercise, and you've got those other important things. And then you said being kind to yourself, Neil. And that's something I've struggled with because I'm quite hard on myself. But I think a great way to be kind to yourself is to delegate the things that you don't enjoy or you're not good at doing to someone else for much cheaper. Another way to be kind to yourself is to make sure that your needs are getting met, even if that creates conflict where you have to push back on other people and say, look, I need to get my needs met. But another way to be really kind to yourself is to be valuable to other people. Because the more valuable you are to other people, the more sense of fulfillment, like deep fulfillment. Feels great to buy a Lamborghini, feels great to fly a helicopter. I've done all those things, but it feels so much deeper when you know you're valuable and useful to a lot of people. And a lot of people, when they say be kind to yourself, they're just thinking about being selfish or resting. I think it's deeper than that.
Yeah, I love that kind of going deeper. And I guess with all of these things, and that is such a great checklist, Rob, of all the considerations, I guess, because, like you, I think we can all kind of get swept along with the enjoyment of either work or a new project or something like that. It's very difficult to kind of have those little checkpoints. I guess one of the things that kind of comes in to help us to do that potentially is this emergence of, well, this new thing that really wasn't a thing last time we spoke in terms of the kind of the global impact of it is AI. How are you kind of still seeing AI impacting in your kind of world of investment or, the property portfolio you have? Or if I think about, your podcast and everything else, your disruption and influence, I mean, it must be coming into all of those spheres now.
Yeah. So AI is like everything. It is a double-edged sword, and it has a high probability of having equal downsides to upsides. And when steel was manufactured at scale, and then you could create railway and then trains, you can connect people much more quickly and easily, and you can travel from place to place. But there were no train robbers before trains, and there was no trains before steel, and trains also made it easier for people to go from town to town to town to rob, and also to rob on the trains as well. So that has a downside. If you think about social media, as an entrepreneur, social media is game-changingly positive. But if you have 12-year-old kids, you know that social media can be really damaging if not managed well. I see AI exactly the same. So AI is great for self-diagnosing potential health challenges, but it's not your doctor. AI is great for warming up and re-energizing colder leads, but terrible for talking to your best clients who want a human. So that's the way I'm seeing AI. And we've been investing 7 figures into AI systems and processes and automation in our companies. Mark's been using it to help develop floor plans, help with planning, help with costings. And he said, do you know what, Rob? It surprised me how good it is, but it's not as good as me. So I used to have a researcher that I would pay about £6,000 per book I wrote. Sorry, an editor who would research a bit and then edit the book. And then I also have my full-time researcher. And in my last 2 books, and the one I'm writing now, which is called Money School, I don't need the researcher, and I only need one kind of final editing process. So that probably saves me about 10 out of the 12,000 I might invest in the researcher and the editor. And also the speed and availability of information to make my books more holistic and dense quality is obviously brilliant. But no one wants to read a book written by AI. So if I just let AI write my book, she'd be like, this doesn't sound like Rob Moore. Where are the swear words? Where's the rants? Why is he not complaining about the system? So AI does a lot of the heavy work that either took me years or cost me tens of thousands, but my tone and my voice and my personality needs to stay in the book. And that's the strategic advantage. You know, LinkedIn, it really annoys me when people engage using the AI feature. No one wants to talk to an AI. And if you're engaging with the influencer that you think is the best, and you want to get a message from them, you don't want to get a message from the AI. So I'll use AI for research only, AI for systems and processes only. But imagine a world even further into AI, where everything is automated. We will miss human connection. You know, we will miss the human experience, love, respect, you know, connecting with another human, and that energy and that experience. And I'm really worried that the world's going to lose that. And I'm also somewhat worried if we give too much autonomy over to AI, we'll lose control of our own species.
Do you think it's going to, almost sort of reshape or re-identify what an entrepreneur is then? Because somebody, I know we talked in quite some detail about, you know, is entrepreneurial sort of tendency or preference or ability, is it innate, or is it a DNA sort of thread in your family, or can you learn it? You know, that was one of the conversations we had last time. And I'm just wondering here now, with AI, somebody who maybe has a side hustle and thinks, okay, I want to make a go of this now. I don't really have the confidence and I'm not really wanting to take the risk, but now with AI on my shoulder, I get all the answers. It can help me and guide me. It becomes this kind of 24/7 mentor, which gives me the confidence to do it. Do you think we're going to see people kind of taking that leap of faith more because they have kind of AI, on their back?
AI can definitely help you research quicker, start a business quicker. I mean, let's say you're pitching to investors. Obviously, you can get AI to help you with your pitch deck, but you've still got to deal with the emotions of sitting in front of a multimillionaire. And AI can't teach you how to, you know, it can give you the theory, but AI doesn't have emotions, so it can't do that. And only people can do that. For sure, AI can speed up the minimum viable product time, and maybe reduce the failure rate, for sure. But it's a tool like anything else. Probably the most exciting thing for entrepreneurs or startup entrepreneurs with AI is actually making your business AI. Because as well as it revolutionizing everything, the revolution is AI being your business. You become an AI consultant, you become an AI agency. Because even though everybody knows how much AI knows, it's still quite overwhelming for a lot of people. You know, if you think about how long it took a generation to get on their smartphones because they still had their old phones, how long it took a generation to use the internet because, you know, they were unfamiliar with it. And it's the same with AI. There's going to be so many people that are overwhelmed and unfamiliar and don't know how to use it and don't trust it. A lot of people don't trust it. So actually a great opportunity is for your business to be about AI, or AI be your product or service.
So kind of drawing that point then in with what you said earlier about nobody wants to talk to AI on LinkedIn, which I think is, again, something for everybody to just press the pause button here and actually reflect on, because actually I think that will resonate with so many people if they're being brutally honest here. But do you think because of this change, I mean, some of the stuff we're talking about here is almost inevitable. You know, it's almost the genie is out of the vase or whatever it was, out of the pot, the thing, you know what I'm talking about. Does it kind of almost mean then that we're going to have to almost redefine success, would you say, in an AI driven world? Because, you know, if these things are happening anyway, and if inevitably people are going to be using AI, whether we like it or not, almost as their agent, you know, in LinkedIn or wherever else, are we going to need to be almost seeing this definition of success in life as being something different? Do you see this as going to fundamentally change humanity? I mean, I'm with you on the whole kind of human connection is obviously number one priority here, but I think for a lot of people, that isn't going to be the case.
Do we need to redefine success? Well, to me, having a company, a big part of the success is having a culture and some cool, smart people that I enjoy hanging out with that are paying their mortgages and raising their families and, feeling somewhat fulfilled thanks to working for my company. I've always wanted that. I've always felt that that's how you have a strategic advantage in business. That's definitely changing and being disrupted, because maybe a successful company now isn't one with 10,000 staff. Maybe it's one with 2, but it has the reach or the impact of 10,000 staff. So that's something, if I was starting again, I might redefine. But I'm a people-y person in that I love coming to the office. I don't like it. Like, I hate it when everyone's on lunch, because the place is kind of empty and there's no energy. And I like bumping into people and having chats by the water cooler, as they say, and the impromptu nature. And it makes me feel a sense of vibrancy and disruption and progress. And now we do have to adapt our hiring strategy and not just go people, but look at software, system, process. So that may have changed for me. I mean, I had a second interview today for a senior position, and we will still hire people, but we'll probably, my business partner's out at Stanford University doing an AI course there. But I imagine some businesses will become cold. So would I want to make, let's say, 50 grand a month? Like, I need more than that because I've got an expensive lifestyle. Also, that's not a huge amount for me. But let's say 50 grand a month. This sounds like quite a lot of money. Would you rather have 50 grand a month with a cold, titanium, non-personal, AI-related business? Or would you rather make 30 or 35 grand a month around people innovating, disrupting, making waves, going to Christmas parties, going to their kids' christenings? It's a choice for an individual. I still have that strong sense of desire for human connection. And lockdown robbed that for a lot of us. And now working from home has robbed that from a lot of us. And now AI is going to rob that for a lot of us. And everyone's looking at AI and what it will do, and they're not looking at what it will take away. So that's the only way I can think about how AI will redefine success. Because, what does success mean? I think broadly speaking, it means, are you good and useful in the area you've chosen that you want to be good and useful in? That's a broad definition. Like, I can't define your success by my individual metric, because we've all got individual metrics. But broadly speaking, are you good at what you do and useful to others? And am I good at what I do and I'm useful to others? I would say that's broad success. But then, like, individually, how's it going to change? Well, it should help me make more automated income. It should mean I don't need as much HR. It should mean, if they bring in this new employment law where from day one, there's no probation and there's no ease of letting someone go, it should mean, well, I don't have to put myself at risk there. So I probably can have less friction, more speed, deal with less HR-y or administrative things, which for most people aren't that fun. So I think that it could help success in those areas, maybe.
And I would just want to come back to your point there, Rob, when you were sort of talking about this recruitment thing, because I think one of the questions I definitely wanted to, as I was thinking about our conversation, wanted to sort of broach with you, was this idea of how does a business owner, leader, or entrepreneur stay ahead when, you know, this thing is potentially moving away from us very quickly if we don't jump on now. And I think one of the really interesting things that you hooked into there was this idea of kind of recruiting, creating the right culture, but it isn't necessarily exclusively about people. It's this balance between recruiting the right people, but also, I guess you're saying, kind of almost questioning your organization or your team and looking at it from a, can I actually improve this need in the business by an AI solution or a technology or system solution, as well as, or maybe instead of, a human solution. So it is this conscious decision making, isn't it? It's not saying one is right or wrong, because every case is going to obviously have a different answer, but is that what you're advocating here? It's like not just recruiting for recruiting's sake to build a big team, but actually just being really thoughtful about, can I solve this problem, or, you know, expand this thing or scale out this particular initiative with a system or with an AI versus a human being? And if I can strike that perfect sweet spot of maintaining the culture, but also being super efficient, then is that the ultimate answer here, would you say?
Yeah, I think questioning very regularly what you're doing and trying to disrupt yourself in the sense that maybe there's a better way, and imagine you're a competitor trying to beat you. I think that's really healthy. And, you know, some people are in their businesses, but they're a bit fatigued and bit tired or a bit bored. And they think it's the business's fault. But in fact, if you just imagined you're a competitor and try and disrupt your business in multiple ways, you could create plenty to do that would be exciting and energizing again. So I think that's a very healthy thing to do regularly without messing things up so frequently that you can't make any progress. The next thing I think is just being really clear where you should and where you shouldn't use AI. I'm really clear on less engaged leads. AI can be useful to re-engage them. I'm really clear, if a client spent 50 grand with me, they're not getting any AI. We were one of the first people in our space, if not the first, to test a load of AI ads. And I used this really progressive firm. And I just sat in the studio here in 2 minutes, just read some random script and was animated. And we churned out 500 AI ads from that, you know, the visual and so video, not just audio. And you're like, wow, this could be amazing because we've got 500 ads out there and we could do dynamic real-time testing. But because I've already got a big following, everyone was reporting the ads as scam because they knew me and they knew that, well, that's not Rob. So actually it hurt my brand a bit and it hurt my ad algorithms. So then we had to go back to the drawing board and go, okay, we need to make sure that the AI ads are out there for people who don't know Rob, because my AI spoke a bit more posh than me. And so it was quite clear that that's not Rob Moore. And he had a slight Australian twang. So we thought we were being smart and clever when in fact that kind of hurt us. So being really clear what you use AI for and what you refuse to use AI for. And the more we use AI, the more people will become lonely. They'll pay more for human connection. They'll want more bespoke, higher ticket, higher value products and services. And that could be the upside opportunity, that you don't really do any AI. You just have a much more boutique-y business where you've got much higher quality clients, where you're charging much more money because no one can get any connection anywhere.
That's an interesting one, which I'm thinking that there'll be quite a lot of people who'll be watching, listening to this, who will be either currently or wishing to be thought leader, some kind of influencer, maybe at a micro level in the industry that they're in, or maybe already in consulting. And they're probably now tussling with this kind of duality of, okay, I'm now feeling challenged by AI because my clients can get an answer for free within seconds, and it takes me ages to kind of do the research and figure it out. how can I sustain that? But also then, if I can be authentic with the outbound use of AI, with, as you say, proper, well thought through and well positioned advertising, maybe supported with AI, there's this yin yang thing, isn't there? There's this upside and also this challenge. Do you see that everybody in every kind of sphere of business that you're encountering is almost got to be working with this duality? There is this upside where you can see the opportunity to scale, become super efficient, at the same time as, yes, but don't lose the human, and yes, but actually people are buying you. If it feels like there's this constant battle and we're being stretched.
Yeah, so I think that is the way that the universe works. There is duality in everything. And so what humans tend to do is look for extremes or one-sidedness. Nothing has one side. Everything has, a magnet has two poles. There's male and female. And so if you're only ever seeing something as all good or only ever seeing something as all bad, you are not seeing the reality. So like, think of something that happened that was really hard. Maybe you went through a really messy divorce, or maybe you lost your business and it went under. I'm sure at the time you thought it was all bad. And I'm sure now you look back with 3 or 5 years of emotion subsided, water under the bridge, and the wisdom of balance and hindsight, you can go, well, actually, that was good because, and that was good because, and that was good because. So if you want wisdom, if you want maximum progress, because maximum progress is usually at the border of support and challenge. Like anyone who's got kids, if you overly challenge your kids, you'll break them. If you overly support them, they'll become juvenile and dependent. Overly challenged, too independent; under challenged, too dependent. So there's duality in everything. And if you figure out really quickly what the upsides and downsides are, that's how you win, not trying to find something that only has upsides.
So with this duality, I mean, obviously within finance speak, we have bear market, bull market. There is another duality of kind of, obviously, the economy. Which one do you think we're in right now? And would you be encouraging people to be taking the leap or investing or, being really kind of positive? Or is this a time for reflection, holding off and caution? Obviously, we've had all this stuff like the tariffs from Mr. Trump, et cetera, coming through. I mean, where's your kind of mindset right now?
Well, that's a great example of duality, bear market and bull market. And if you did a poll to most normal people, they would say that the bear market is bad and the bull market is good, not to the contrarian investor. The contrarian investor wants to buy low, sell high. So the bear market is good for the contrarian investor. The bear market is good to buy. The bull market is good to sell. So where are we in that cycle? Well, that completely depends, Neil, on the markets you're in. Because you've got the stock market, you've got gold, you've got crypto, you've got real estate, you've got sort of general business, and they've all got their own cycles within a broader cycle. Real estate in London's dropped quite a lot. Real estate where I am, just outside London, where I've got 345 odd units. Residential's not dropped that much. Commercial's dropped a lot. We just bought a property, 25,000 square feet. We'll develop 4 floors above it. And that was double the price 5 years ago as what we've just paid for it. So if you're selling it, that's bad. If you're buying it, that's good. As long as you know how to buy it well. So there is no one place in the market we are, because it's about the different markets oscillating within the main market. Like if you study Ray Dalio, who I really like his work, he's very knowledgeable. He's been through many cycles. He's got like his debt cycle curve. And then within it, he's got his cycles within the cycles of, and if you think about it, you've got cycles that might last months, cycles that might last years, cycles that might last decades, and cycles that might last centuries. Like the British Empire, it might be centuries. The pound might be decades. The pound's probably on its way down and out probably, or most fiat currencies are. So how do you then figure all this out? Well, if you have a long-term view, doesn't really matter what cycle you're in, as long as you hold for as long as possible. So I buy property and I hold forever. I buy gold and silver, and if I buy Bitcoin, I hold forever. And it's my 20th year in business next year. So the long-termism has ironed out any short-term dips or over concern for timing and getting it right. Like if you own any asset, you might think it's bad if it's dropped in price, but then if you buy another one of it, it's good. So Warren Buffett says everyone like worries when their stocks go down. I love it when my stocks go down because I buy more. But of course, what he's got that exists goes down. But he knows he's not going to sell it, so it doesn't matter. So he has a long-term view. Then you've got to think about economies. So like Dubai, the economy of Dubai versus the economy of the UK is very different. Dubai definitely is growing. It's pulling in a load of millionaires. It's low tax, low crime, really entrepreneurial. But then the UK is increasing crime, increasing tax, increasingly not entrepreneurial, increasing exodus of many millionaires in the tens of thousands a year. So all of these things are going on simultaneously. How do you figure all this out? Understand what investment and asset classes you're in. Have a long-term view. Anytime there's a little dip, go in and buy in. Make sure that the environment that you're in is conducive to being entrepreneurial, i.e., if you think the UK is shot for you, move or set up an international arm. But for us, it's really more about just managing the taxation and getting that down. But yeah, there's a lot going on. But even if you think about high inflation is really bad if you're a saver. It's really good if you've got mortgages because it wipes out the value of mortgages. Inflation, if you own assets, inflation is really good because it pushes up prices. So everything has upside and downside.
So this is, I guess, where getting the right people, the right resources, maybe a little bit of AI, but certainly the support and the wisdom, the sage advice of somebody like Mr. Rob Moore on your side is obviously, I guess, what you would recommend as the next steps for somebody looking to kind of shift things up and actually go for it, because it feels like from your advice there that there is no bad time. There is always an opportunity. There's always a potential upside. So education, informing yourself, just being literally finger on the pulse, is that the next step for everybody to be taking, do you feel?
Yeah. I mean, there can be a bad time if you don't have time to iron out. I've definitely bought properties and I've thought I've overpaid, or I've got a lot going on in my life. Am I doing a bit too much myself? So there's your own timing of your own life and what you can handle as capacity. But if you have a long-term vision, time always writes all of these things. So if you ask the billionaires or the most successful people on the planet, I know that Jeff Bezos has said this, a trait of the most successful people is the longest time horizon. If people are planning day to day, week to week, they're nowhere near going to be as successful as people who are planning decade to decade. I remember Jeff Bezos being interviewed, and the interviewer was like, well, Jeff, you've had a really good quarter this quarter. And he went, I knew that 5 years ago, because he'd been planning a long way out. So that's the best way to deal with the short-term challenges. And whilst I'm flattered that you call me a sage, I don't get called that every day, or wise. The more you learn, the more you earn. If you stay humble to your own humanness and remain of the mindset of a student, then you'll always learn, and therefore you can earn more, and then you don't get blindsided by your own ego. And I think making sure you get around really good people, who are on a similar mission and vision, with the same level of energy, with the same level of or desire for results or better results, with the people and the connections that they can introduce you to. There's a saying, your network is your net worth. I think that's really smart. And believe in yourself, because if it's humanly possible, why can't you do it?
Rob, as always, absolutely fascinating to listen to both the anecdotes and I think the real honesty that comes through from your words. And I always really appreciate that, because I think a lot of people, get onto podcasts and they've almost they've got the book to sell, or they've got, the story to tell. And you kind of think you never really get to the real person. But with Rob Moore, you always get to the heart of actually what's really going on. So I really do appreciate your time, Rob, again, coming on the show. And one final little question then. A single piece of advice, somebody listening to this thinking, crikey, yeah, I'm going to be checking out Rob. And of course, all the details will be in the description below, wherever you're watching or listening to this. But final little piece of advice, what one single thing would you recommend somebody listening to all of this should do next?
Well, thank you for your kind words, Neil. I mean, one of the reasons I don't have a book to sell is because I had to depublish my last one, Money Matrix, because it was causing too much of a stir. So I can't promote that because you can't buy it anymore. What would be my one last parting word of wisdom? Well, on every one of my shows and every one of my content pieces, which is like tens of thousands, I would usually say, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything. So there's people listening who know they want to start their own business, or they know the next step they want to take, but they're scared of the risk. If you don't risk anything, you risk everything. But one thing I'm going to actually add to this, Neil, is you've got to make money important, because money is the tool that we've all agreed is our universal exchange of value, our universal store of value. Money is a store of time, value, and energy. So it's possibly the most ubiquitous, important tool out of any tool that humanity has made. So any tool that's useful, you'd learn how to use. But most people don't know how to use the tool of money. And then there's all these emotions attached to money, like, oh, the love of money is the root of all evil, or money doesn't make you happy, or money doesn't grow on trees. Well, none of those are true. They're just projections of people's opinion, because money doesn't have a conscience. Money doesn't have any of these traits. It's just a tool. It's an effective lever. And this is why I've launched Money.school, Neil. Well, it's been going a few years now. But I allow all kids under the age of 18 to join Money.school for free under their parents' login. I'm on a mission to help as many people on this planet get better financial knowledge. And, for a few pence a day, you can get hundreds of hours of courses, resources, and masterclasses inside Money.school. Because you're like, do you know, this is a shocking statistic, Neil, but in my research for my new book, Money School, which is a partner to Money.school, do you know that the top 0.1% of the population live 14.1 years longer than the bottom 0.1% of the population from an earnings perspective? So everyone assumes it's like geographical location, war, famine, and there'll be some of that linked to it. But on a purely financial level, if you're in the top 0.1% of a financial earner, you will live statistically 14.1 years longer than if you're in the bottom 0.1%. That is a shocking statistic. So money literally will help you live longer, because it's a brilliant tool to help you live longer. My dad is ill at the moment. My wife has got some health challenges. My son has got some health challenges. And I always used to think being rich was great because I've got 8 cars and, I've got a load of properties and I've got a load of nice things and I can do great things. I'm now realizing the best reason, the best commitment to my family I made to being rich is being able to afford all their healthcare. Take my son down to Harley Street for, a quite serious thing he's got, and get my wife the best iron doctor in this country. So most people listening are not making the money that they want to make, which means they're not taking the tool of money seriously enough, which means they don't know how to use that tool very well. And that's why I have Money.school.
We will put the link in there and a little bit of blurb in the description below. Rob Moore, thank you so much again for your time today.
Thank you, Neil.